Well, I've got a metal-bodied Spokeshave here. This is a Stanley 51. They number them right on the back right there. So it's a Stanley made 51s and 151s, which is the adjustable, and then there was and I've got a 52 and a 58. The handles get lower on those. The 58, they're almost flat. But this is the one you find in the flea markets for $5, $10, maybe $15 at the most. It's in good shape as far as it hasn't been damaged, but it needs quite a bit of work done on it to get it up and running. But I like these Spokeshaves. It's got its stock blade in there. You can replace it with a good replacement blade, but you know, you'll put another $30 in the Spokeshave. You'll make it a whole lot better. So it just depends on what you want to do there. So let's take this cap off and check this thing out first. So one of the first things that you see is this cap is blunt on the edge. So it's a good place for chips to get stuck, crammed up against. So one of the things we're going to do is to flatten the bottom of this cap and sharpen it right here so the chips can come up and exit. So look at the blade. Blade's been ground quite a bit, but there's still some life left in it. It looks like whoever had it before did some buffing on it because it's rounded over that way. So we'll change that, put a hollow grind on it and hone it. We'll have to flatten the back, and I'm not sure what the back looks like. The other thing we need to look at is the sole of this, and I like to flatten these out, smooth these up, and then we'll sharpen that mouth right there, and then we'll make sure the blade sits good and flat on its bed. So let's look at the sole first, and just put a couple of marks here. This is 250 grit sandpaper on a granite block. Not bad, almost done. It's hitting all the way around it, a tad bit on the front. It's not hitting it, and a little bit right over here. Well, there we go. It's looking great. So let's go to the 800 grit stone. And now let's go to the 1200 grit. Okay, sole's looking good. Let me get a file and clean that mouth up there. If that'll fit through there. Yeah. Okay. So I've got a little thin file here that will straighten up that mouth and sharpen it up. so as the chip comes up, it can snap. Now since I'm not putting a replacement blade in there, I don't want to open up the mouth too much. If you're putting a thicker replacement blade in there, you might need to open it up more for it to go through. So that trues that mouth up and makes it nice and sharp there. Now let's look at the blade. So let's put that blade on this. About wore out my sandpaper here. Let's see what we're getting at here. I don't know. Back of this blade may be pretty rough. Well, I heard my goats making noise out there. But you may notice I changed out my sandpaper, kind of wore it out with doing the bottom of that block plane and then that Spokeshave. But the back of this Spokeshave blade is flat now, but there's a little bit of light pitting. Very light right there. Now you got to get all of that out before you can sharpen the blade. And if it's got too much pitting in it, then you just need to get you another blade. But this is just barely there, and I'll be able to get it out. There it goes. That looks great. So now I'll go to the 800 stone and take off those sandpaper scratches. Shouldn't take much. Oh, I don't want to do that. I can also look at it with this hand lens right here. Probably a good idea. And I can see when those scratches from the sandpaper's gone. And this is the 1200 stone. Clean that a little bit and get those 800 grit from that 800 stone off of that. Okay. So as you can see, I'm just getting this much of the blade right here. There's no reason. You don't have to flatten the whole thing. You have to remove all that material. It's looking good. Okay, so let's go to the final stone. My 8000 grit. And then you need to work up slurry on that. the stone. That'll do it. That's pretty shiny. I don't know if you can see that or not, but kind of get the light to glint off of it. Okay, that will probably do it. We'll be ready to grind it then. And next we'll go to this cap, back up that screw a little bit, and see what this cap looks like. Because we want it to seal flat against that blade, so chips can't get caught up underneath it. And that's pretty good. I don't know if you can see, it's hitting back here and it's hitting right up here. Won't take much to get this. Okay, there we go. Got it all the way across now. Okay, so we've got the sole flattened and the mouth trued up and sharpened. I've got the bottom of the cap flattened, and what I need to do now with it is grind the front of it and hone it to where it's sharp and won't catch chips. And I've got the back of the blade flattened and polished, and the pitting out of it. And so now what I have to do is take it over to the grinder and grind it. And there would be one more thing, and that would be how the blade sits on the Spokeshave here on the bed. And so if you put the blade right on it and push on it and see if you can get it to rock, because you'd like for it to sit as flat as possible. And this one is not rocking at all. So I wouldn't do anything to it, but I'd like to show you what I would do to it. So I'll do that. Let me get my screwdriver and my file. I'll be right back. Okay, so let's take screw out there. And so what you would do would be to put your blade on here and figure out where the high spot is. And then you can take your file and just lightly file on that spot. I'm just kind of hitting the whole thing just so it, there you go, right like that. And then put the blade in there. And yeah, it wasn't rocking any, but I think it's even more solid now. So that's what you would do. Okay, so now we'll go over to the grinder and we'll grind both of these. Alright, so I'm going to grind the cap first, and I've set this up to some unknown angle. I don't know what it is, but I think it'll work. We'll take a look at it. Yeah, I think that's going to work right there. guys see where we are. All right, looking good. Looking good. Got a little ways to go though. Okay, it's getting a little warm now. And I've still got a little ways to go. Now you could file this too if you wanted to. This is soft enough to file. I'm not sure why I'm grinding it instead of filing it, but I am. Okay, we're there. I think I can sharpen it now, hone it, and get it sharp. So now we'll go to the blade. So I'm ready to grind the blade, but got some glazing from that grinding that we did. But the stone is still true, so I won't use the diamond stick. I'll just use the carborundum. Hit it with that. Okay. So now I'm going to have to find the angle and let's stop this thing so I can talk. So I prefer to grind, say, a 28-degree angle on this. But this is an old Stanley blade. It's got Stanley Rule and Level Company written on this side right here. So it's a lot thinner than the replacement blade that you're going to get for it. And like I said before, you can do a lot more to make this Spokeshave work, to soup it up. And a replacement blade is one of the things that you can do. And it's money well spent. But I'm trying to show you how to do it without spending any more than the $10 that you paid for the Spokeshave. So if you put a 28-degree bevel on a blade that's this thin, the bevel's going to be pretty short, which makes it harder to hold on the stone. But you could do that. Or another option is to grind it at, say, a 25 or even a little bit less, and then put a micro bevel on it. Now the reason you have to put a micro bevel on it is because when you get it down below 28, it's getting a little thin to be able to hold the edge. So anyway, I'm going to try to guess at something here and grind it, and then we'll see where we stand with the thing. Well, I like where that's hitting. Sitting about right there. Now this bevel's been just really messed up. It's just convex right like that. Looks like they've had it on a buffer or a belt sander or both. So we'll straighten that out. Yeah, it's looking good. Now these old blades are, I guess, high carbon steel, or is what you'd call them, O1 steel, whatever. Anyway, they're a lot easier to grind than some of the replacement blades. You can get it sharper, you can grind it faster, you can hone it faster, and it doesn't last as long. But that's the only downside. So. yeah, I think it's coming along good. I'm going to get my square and check it for square. So, okay, so we're high over here on this side, which is not as important with this as it is a plain blade, because you can just cock it in the tool, in the body. So you want to keep it moving on the grinder or you'll burn it. So I've ground all the way to the edge. I can feel the burr that it's pulled up on it, and I can't see any edge on it. So I'm going to turn it off and go get my angle finder, and then I'll be able to see what I ground it. I've got my little angle finder here. Let's see what I've been grinding it. Yeah, looks like it's right at 25, maybe a little bit more. So, not bad. Now let's look at the square. And I'm a lot closer, but I could still take off a little bit right there. Alright, well, it's close enough. So let's go over and hone it. So I'm going to start out with the 250 grit sandpaper for the cap, and it's so soft it will get it down there really fast. Okay, so there we are. We're ready to move to something else on that. So I've got the 800 grit Waterstone. And we'll turn back that burr a little bit there. You could probably just leave the burr on it. It might even seal better with the burr on it. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do to that right there. I think that'll be ready to go. I'll get a paper towel to wipe it off with. So we'll keep the 800 grit stone out here. Where's get my water bottle here. And now this bevel is short, so it's a little difficult to find, but there it is. I've got my fingers just right down on the edge of the blade to be able to feel it. Now the danger you run into, and I do it all the time, is about the time I've got this thing really sharp, I'll look down on the stone, there'll be blood down there where I've clipped off the tips of my fingers. I'd rather not do that. Let's see how we're looking there. Okay, that looks good. We'll get all this 800 grit off of it. So here's the 1200 grit stone. Same color as the 800 grit stone. Okay, so right there's the bevel. And you can do what you want. You can do a figure 8 here. I think Gary Rogowski does a figure 5. And turn back the burr there. Okay. So still got a little burr pulling up there. And we got the 8,000. Stop moving around, Stone. There we go. Okay. Make sure there's no grit from the other stone on it. Okay. And I put it down on the heel and rock it forward till it's hitting on the heel and the toe. And then I'll turn back that burr and come back again. Sometimes you can see the wire edge fall off. Sometimes I can see it laying right on the stone there, and other times I can't. It gets so small before it falls. And with this 01 steel, it falls off pretty quick. I don't see anything, but I don't feel it either. So now that I've got it sharp, I'm going to strengthen the edge a little bit, because if you remember back on the grinder, I ground it at 25 to kind of increase the length of that bevel just at least a little bit. And now I'll strengthen the edge with a micro bevel. So I'm going to pick it up exactly 3 degrees and pull it back. Pick it up, pull it back. And all the action takes place right at that edge. So with the edge being as sharp as it was, it shouldn't take but just a couple of strokes to put that micro bevel on it. Now what I'll be able to do is when I want to resharpen, I can take the micro bevel out really easy because it's so small. So I just find the heel again, rock it forward, hone the micro bevel out, and then I can put it back on it again. So let me clean this up, and we'll put it in the Spokeshave body and see how it's going to cut. Okay. All right, so we'll put the blade back in. Of course, on these Spokeshaves, the bevel goes down on them. And these old 51s don't have any adjusters on them, so you can adjust it by smacking it right like that, back or forward, just like you would a wooden plane. But to get it close from the first is, I set it, well, let's get the cap on there, maybe I can look better like that. So setting the sole flat down on a piece of wood and making sure the blade is in contact with it, and that little bit of pressure from the cap ought to give it just enough bite. So we're going to check it out on this chair seat. This is a birdcage seat that's about ready to assemble here. And so I thought, well, it'll make a good place to check it out on this end grain, because this is where I actually use it in the chair anyway. So first off, let's see if it's yeah, I could set it a little heavier than that. So I'm going to just smack it right like that. Smack it on this side. Now it's see. Okay, there we go. So it's taking some pretty good shavings on the end grain around through there. I've seen a better surface left. You know, it's one that will do, but you can make it better than that. It ought to shine just a little bit more than what it's doing. You know, right over there on that far right side, it's cutting like it should. Okay. Well, it gives you the idea what you're supposed to do anyway.